Milovan Rajevac there. He's been officially sacked as coach of the Ghana Black Stars. But let's stay on this story, and I have Nathan Quao. You give us more details to the story. Nathan, you look excited, don't you? Good news coming in.
I wouldn't say I'm excited, but yes, this for a lot of people, they have been waiting for the official news. If you were in that circle, or if you know people in that circle and are very close to the story, you won't be surprised, because as of last weekend, there were strong indications that Milovan Rajevac was going to be kicked out. He was not going to keep his job as Black Stars head coach. So it's not too surprising that the news has come tonight that he's officially been asked to leave, or he's parted ways with the Black Stars team.
But he gave some reasons over his poor performance. Yes. Genuine ones, aren't they?
Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, yes, he didn't have time, but who had time? As of when he got the job, a lot of the coaches were also preparing for the AFCON, and most of the coaches in the AFCON had just about that same amount of time to prepare for the competition. So he cannot say that, okay, he didn't have enough time. The context that he worked with back in 2010 was very different. Back then, he walked into the country when there was nothing happening. He had time to build a team. He had time to bring under 20 players. So by the time they got to the World Cup or the AFCON of that year, that team was already growing. But he walked in. He would argue he didn't have the time. But like I said, all coaches had just about the same window to prepare for the competition. So,
but we're told at the point he had COVID and he was unwell. Are those anything to...
Well, I mean, yes, there were rumors that he contracted COVID in the team camp in Qatar. But as of the time they played Algeria in their pre-tournament friendly, he was fine enough to have returned to the bench. So that really didn't take too much away from the team's preparations. But all in all, it wasn't a very pleasant time with him in charge. Yes, the football wasn't really an improvement on what a lot of people saw under Siki Akono. And if you look at the circumstances under which Ghana exited the AFCON, you just knew that he was not going to stay. Let's not forget that before he went to the competition, he was given two major assignments, or when he got re-employed by the GFA. One, he was to qualify the team for the World Cup. So there was a playoff that's coming up in March, and you mentioned that. And two, he was asked to do very well with the team in Cameroon. He was essentially asked to go and win the AFCON. Yeah. And so once that didn't happen, and the circumstances surrounding Ghana's exit, it just meant that something had to give. And in the end, it was his appointment that got terminated, quote unquote, by the GFA.
Will we have to give him some money for sacking him? What's
Well, they'll have to work out a compensation. From what I know, initially the contract had a $270,000 clause, $270 clause, sorry, for in the event that he got fired before his time. Yeah. So now they'll have to try and work out the severance, because he's getting fired very early into that contract, so which means that we'll have to work out a severance. As to what the final amount will be, nobody knows. We'll hear that in coming days, but there is a certainty that he will get paid a severance. If not, he would have the right to drag the FA to wherever it is to go and claim his severance, because he got sacked very early into a contract. Anybody
in mind replacing him?
It's tough. The Black Stars have an assignment in March. That's virtually next month, or just a few weeks away. You do not know how they are going to get the kind of manager people would want. So we'll have to wait and see. I get the sense there will be an interim arrangement just to see what happens in that playoff between Ghana and Nigeria. Depending on what happens, a new coach will come in. But what is sure is that Ghana will enter the next of the second part of the year, or at least from March onwards, with a new man in charge, with a new technical team. And hopefully we'll see what happens. Let's not forget that the AFCON qualifies later this year for the next AFCON, which will be played in Cote d'Ivoire in June next year. So there's no breathing space. There's no time to relax and sleep. The Black Stars will quickly have assignments, and it starts in March. So we'll be seeing a new coach. I don't know if it will be a permanent coach in March, but we'll see some people handling the team at least between now and when Ghana plays Nigeria. And after those two legs, maybe we'll have a new man in. Or they could appoint a new permanent manager. His first assignment will be try and qualify Ghana to a World Cup. And then they plan for life after that.
I know you guys started discussing his exit last week. So there are a couple of names that have come up for that position, or some that you would think should. I mean, give us some of
Well, I mean, there's so many names in the hat, so many names. A lot of people have mentioned some other names. For example, Florent Ibenge, he coaches AS Vita in Morocco. Some people say he's got great African pedigree. Some have mentioned Lucien Favre, ex-Dortmund manager. He's jobless as of now. I remember many years ago, the current manager of Peru, Ricardo Gareca, he applied to be Black Stars manager. He was overlooked. That's when Kwesi Appiah got the job, the most recent time. So many names will fly about, and we'll see a lot more names when the FA officially opens its arms and says, we are looking for a new Black Stars coach, whoever it is that is ready, come and apply. And I bet you there will be names upon names upon names.
Any Ghanaian in there? Well, people really think it's time to really stick with this Ghanaian thing and stop these foreign coaches.
Well, there's that argument, and I think the long-term goal is to get there. The current problem is this. The pool of Ghanaian coaches that have that kind of quality is very limited. Very, very, very limited. And you have to blame the GFA for probably not doing enough to groom Ghanaian coaches to let them be quote-unquote modern coaches. So the pool is very small. And even if you want to choose a Ghanaian now, how many will you find? There's Kwesi Appiah, who might probably be brought back for a third stint or a fourth stint with the national team. Maxwell Kunedu was Milo's assistant. He doesn't get to stay because there will be a reshuffling of the technical team. So the pool is extremely small. Now, if you can look outside and say that, oh, there are certain Ghanaians who are doing well in Europe, like Otoado. He was supposed to have been part of this team, but because of club commitments with Dortmund, he couldn't show up. There's George Boateng, ex-Holland international, ex-Aston Villa player. He has shown interest. He wants, or he has stated in the past, he would like to coach the national team. I don't know if this will be the time that the powers that be will look at him and say, okay, what have you got to offer? Let's see what you can do. So the pool is extremely small. And because of that size of the pool, more often than not, you are left with almost no choice than to go for an expatriate. But whilst we do that, or whatever it is, I believe that we still have a lot of work to do in grooming Ghanaian coaches, bringing them up to the standard that is required. And the problem is that we've got our national team. 95% of the players play in Europe. They are exposed to all kinds of things, coaching methods, modern ways of doing things. And so when you bring them back to play for the national team, and the one who's handling them is not matching up to that standard, there's a certain disconnect. And then you find players grumbling and not giving their best because they feel that I'm playing at a certain level. I need to be coached at that level. If that coach is way below that level, there's not enough effort and respect, and those things break down into all kinds of problems for your national team. Okay,
before I let you go, what really is the problem with the Black Stars? Is it just a coaching problem, or what exactly is the problem?
Okay, so I think that the Black Stars have three problems. One, there's not a lot of honesty in team selection. We almost always never pick the best available players. There's always politics. Some good players will get in, others get in not on merit but based on other reasons. So that's the first problem. The second problem is a coaching problem. And that if you look at what happened in Cameroon in the AFCON, it was an absolutely terrible show of poor coaching, poor handling, poor managing of football matches that should have allowed the team to progress. Then there's that. And then there's player politics, player politics. Players are in camp. I don't like this person. I like that person. I don't like that guy. Don't select this player.
Wow.
Those type of things. When you put that mix together, it's a recipe for all kinds of problems. And such problems will manifest themselves in exiting a competition at the first round, where everybody knows that we are all guilty and everybody has to pass the blame and share a bit of the blame. So I feel that if you eliminate all these things and the FA has to do its job as an FA, select players based on merit, choose the right players. If there are players outside this country who you feel can help the team, speak to them, because there are so many players who are very aggrieved, because of one episode or the other, and they've openly stated that they would not want to play for the Black Stars. If you find that those players have certain qualities that can be added to the team, it will take a lot of effort, convincing, and of course, cleaning our own structure, making sure that the players see there's a lot of transparency, there's a good environment when they come in, they can play, they are not undermined by their fellow players, the coaching makes sense to them. When you put that kind of mix together, you will have a national team that will grow. But overall, there should be a plan in terms of how we build our football, how we grow the next generation of footballers. Do we have enough proper football pitches, proper football grounds? Are we grooming coaches? Are we allowing women's football to grow? And that's in the long term, and that's something solely for the Ghana Football Association to do. All
right, Nathan Quao, we'll have more discussions of this, and we wish the new person well. The challenges are enormous. We wish whoever will take that huge tax well. Thank you very much, Nathan Quao.